The project for today is changing the rear end fluid in the 2500. So there's a few videos on it, and I just want to make a quick one here to show. A lot of people have issues getting around the sway bar, but there's no tension on it when the car is sitting flat, or when the truck is sitting flat. So all you have to do is take the impact and take 4 bolts out, and then it swings down out of the way. And now you can get your impact on all of the, well, nearly all of the bolts to get the cover off, except it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 at the top. The track bar's in the way. So I'm using the impact to get them out, but do not use the impact to put them in, because you'll snap them off and then you'll have a really bad time. And I've already got the fill plug loose. I've got the cover off of it without any issues, and I've wiped it down. This was a Georgia farm truck, and the axle was just caked with mud, and it was caked in the gap between the housing of the differential and the cap. So when I took it off, there was a fair amount of dirt up at the top. I should have probably sprayed that down before I took the cover off, but whatever. So I took some paper and stuffed it into the differential and cleaned off the outside so the dirt wouldn't fall in it, and then wiped off whatever was in there. It's recommended not to spray anything inside the differential to clean it. And then I also, to make it a little bit easier, I also jacked up the back of the truck on the trailer hitch. That way it got the track bar up out of the way enough that I could get to all but 2 of the bolts with the impact, and they spun right out without any issues. Now, so if we turn over here, I've got the reusable seal here, and I've already done the front differential when I put it in the truck, and I didn't have any issues reusing the seal. And the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take some brake cleaner and clean out the inside of the cap and get it ready to go back on. The truck has about 65,000 miles on it, and the fluid actually looks pretty clear. The only reason I was doing it, I was getting some chatter in the rear end when I would make a turn, so I figured I'd throw some fresh fluid in it and see if that helps it any. Got it ready to fill up now, so I'm going to have to make a little dipstick because the fluid level is about 3/4 of an inch below the bottom of the fill hole. And the torque specs on the bolts for the cap are kind of suspicious, because it's a pretty small bolt, and the service manual calls for 30 foot-pounds, the dealer says 29. And if you look on engineering charts, that size bolt should be like 25 foot-pounds max. So what I did, I took the 1/4 inch impact and just ran them in snug, not tight by any means, and then went around with the torque wrench set to 15 and did every other bolt around it and to tighten them down to 15, and then I went up to 20 and did the same thing, and then I did all of them again at 20, because if it starts to leak, then it's not that big of a deal to go in and crank it down a little bit more. But if you go out of the gate at 25 and snap it off, then you've got trouble. So we'll try it at 20. I think that's what I did on the front differential, and I haven't had any leaks out of it. So we'll try that and see what it does. And another point for dropping the sway bar, if you do that, then you don't have to piss around with pumps or anything to fill the differential back up. You can just put the bottle right in it. And just for reference, this is an AAM 11.5 inch limited slip 373 rear end, but I think pretty much all of the 2500s are a similar. It's a similar way to change the fluids. Well, the fill line is exactly 3/4 of an inch below the fill hole, so I've made a little wire dipstick and marked it 3/4 of an inch down from the bottom of the wire. And I'm going to be using Valvoline SynPower 7590. It's GL5 rated, which is what the rear ends take. And I'll put in probably 3.5 quarts and check it. From what I've read, this should take like 4.5 quarts. So we'll just start with 3.5, see if it comes up on the stick, and then inch up from there. Alright, I've got it all buttoned up, and like I said before, I'll just keep an eye on it, check for any seepage, and if it is seeping a little bit, then I'll come in and tighten up all of the bolts a little bit more, try to get it to stop. So it ended up taking about 3.5 quarts, and with my dipstick, it's slightly over the fill line, but even the service manual has a tolerance on it, a plus minus, I think, plus or minus a quarter, so it should be fine. Fast forward a couple days, and I've put about 100 miles on the truck since doing the differential fluid change. And if we take a look at the back, it's still dry, so that's good. The fluid change did make a big difference with the chattering in the turns, so that's pretty much gone now. And I didn't notice that it was also chattering if you were just taking off from a stop sign going straight. So it had a little bit of a hesitation when you would take off from a stop, and that's gone now too. So I'm pleased with it.